Good evening, everyone. For those of you who may not know me, I'm David G. Brown II. I'm the Township Manager, and just want to thank you all for coming out to this presentation. And this presentation will be audio and video recorded to be shown on the Township of Oceans Community Cable Channel, Channel 22 on Verizon Fios, and Channel 77 on Optimum. In addition, this will be streamed live and available on demand and on YouTube. So first and foremost, I'd like to thank you all for finding not robbing your time to come on out to see what the township is up to. And tonight we have some fabulous presenters for you tonight that will go over what is being envisioned by the governing body, myself, the administration. And first up, and I'm gonna let them introduce themselves separately, but we have our township engineer who's gonna go first. He's gonna discuss the current conditions of this building and what's happening here, followed by our chief of police, who's gonna give the conditions of the police department. Then we're going to move over to Remington and Vernick Engineering, who did the feasibility study, and they will talk about all the sites and locations that we were looking to go to for a new municipal town hall. And then finally, to wrap it up, we'll turn it over to the architect, and then he will talk about this lovely design concept here that has been drawn for you tonight. And at this time, I'll turn it over to Greg Blass to lead it off. Greg?
Thank you, everybody. Good evening. I wanted to go over the findings of my assessment report for that I had done for this building, and I'm going to summarize the highlights of my findings. It's much easier than going through the full report. The municipal building is located at 399 Monmouth Road. It's at the intersection of two of the most heavily traveled roads in the township. We're on Monmouth Road, the intersection of Monmouth and Deal Road with a singleized intersection. The site consists of about 3.8 acres. The site is fully developed and has no room for future expansion other than going vertical on this building, which I have several problems because of the multi-level. The site has 139 public parking spaces with ingress and egress drives from Monmouth Road and Deal Road. The driveways are approximately 300 feet from the intersection, which I can highlight on the map I have on the thing here. Here's the Monmouth Road entrance. There's the intersection of Monmouth and Deal, and there's the Deal Road entrance. The Monmouth Road driveway is opposite of Sherman Drive. Sherman Drive is over here. That driveway currently today operates at a service level F, which is in failure mode at peak hours. Summertime, I'm sure if anybody's trying to get out of that driveway, it's impossible. It has a lot of factors. The reason being is the proximity to the traffic signal. It's also the proximity across from here. The only way to resolve that problem would be to relocate that driveway to the north, further away from all the congestion. Problem is our northern property line runs just on the north side of our parking lot. The driveway over to Deal Road is operating at what I call a C or D level. It's about a 40-second wait to get out of this driveway at peak hours. Not an ideal situation either. Traffic backs up in here during the spring, summer, and especially summer hours, and also in the fall days. But coming out of there is 40 seconds. Nowhere to move that driveway to, because this is our western property line, runs along the edge of that property line. So you can see that with the driveway is currently the furthest possible distance from the light, opposing the situation with Sherman. There's no way to improve this situation other than to move this driveway further to the north, which means you'd have to purchase property on the north of us here, which would be somewhat fairly expensive. Access to the parking lot to the building is also a pedestrian problem. Majority of our public parking is on the north side of the building. What I consider the main entrance to the building where most of the services are is in the southeast corner. And as you can see, to traverse from this parking lot, you have to actually walk across the main exit driveway aisle of this driveway. You got to walk down through here, which is actually through a parking lot. There's also a police entrance to their compound here. So for a pedestrian to walk from the parking lot into the pedestrian past until you get to the sidewalk in front of the police department is somewhat not a very safe situation from a pedestrian point of view. You also have a little bit of parking here which backs up. It's like you have the reserved handicap parking spaces, some reserved spaces, 15-minute parking. There's also a online internet purchasing exchange parking lot space reserved there, and an EV spot. But the public must utilize the driveway to get to the parking lot, travel through to the main entrance to the building. There's no remedy to this situation without relocating the entrance to that the relocation of this entrance, which you can see relocation of that entrance would be a difficult task at best, because you have the police compound here. To expand onto this side of the building would be a very difficult task. The building has three main entrances, what I will call the police entrance, which is on the east side of the building, the main entrance, which we talked a little bit about, and then you have what I call the southwest entrance. All three of these entrances are totally isolated and disconnected from each other. Meaning if you come into any one of these entrances to the building, you cannot get to any other portion of the building. You have to go back outside to get there. So what I mean by this, if you come into the police department, their lobby is totally isolated. To get to the main entrance to the building, you have to go back outside and in here. If you happen to come in on the west side of the building and park in here, to get this side of the building, you can only, there's this courtroom as you saw tonight. Oh, and then, let's see if that works. But if you come in this lobby here to get, and you want to you visit any of the municipal offices, if you walk up the stairs or take the elevator here, there's only two departments on this end of the building. You have the Public Works Department and the Finance Office, which most people do not come to this building to visit. So you have to go back outside, walk to the west, and go to that entrance there. So you can see that it's not a very interconnected building. It's actually very uncomfortable and makes it difficult to migrate through the building. Also within the, so there's really no remedy to that situation because all the entrances are at different levels. You have this level, which the entrance here, which I call the lower level, the main entrance, which at the southeast corner, which I call is on level 1, and the police level is on actually a level 1 also.
It's not coming back up.
Not
Is Tom
coming.
in the house?
Tom is in the house.
Where's Tom?
Where's Jessica? I'll continue. I didn't need it too much longer than that. Like I said, the building layout is very disconnected, does not allow for internal access through all departments of the building. There are 4 levels within the municipal building. Public access to all departments within the building is not possible from any one entrance. There's no remedy to this situation without major renovations to the building, and renovations would be very difficult because of the multi-levels in the building. The building does not provide adequate workspace for the employees. An acceptable workspace area per employee is 200 square feet. 70% of the employees that work in the building are in a substandard workspace. The building's undersized because of the limited space. The municipal buildings are in 2 departments that aren't even located in the building. We have the Recreation and Human Services building that 2 departments are there. There's no room in this building for those departments. So this building is drastically undersized. It's obviously most convenient and for the public to have all the departments located within one building and actually have internal access to all those departments. Like I mentioned, the building has no remaining storage space either. The township currently stores all their records off-site, and this is only going to continue to be a problem. So you can see a lot of the things that when old records or somebody does an Oprah request for some of us to get records, we have to send people off-site to go get those records and bring them back to this facility. So that's another hindrance. The police department currently receives waivers from the Department of Corrections and is permitted to continue operating under a grandfather exception rule. One of the problems with this is if we do any revisions to this building, those items have to be fixed. We will no longer be grandfathered. The chief will talk to you more about some of the substandard things that are occurring at the police department. Another problem we have in the building, we have limited security in the municipal building. A large majority of the municipal building and staff do not have a secure separation from the public. What I mean by that is, if you come up into this second level, third level here, you have a teller window between the Public Works Department and the public, and you have a teller window between the Finance Department and the public. If you come in the main entrance where all the public services are, there is no separation of the public and the staff. We've had several instances over the past 5 years where the police had to be called to take threatening members of the public out of the building. So it's just an uncomfortable situation for employees as tempers seem to be rising as the years go on. It would be a convenient thing to separate the public from the staff. Another problem with the building, both the roofs are leaking. There are, in my report, if you look at that, there's several appendixes full of pictures. The gable roof, what I'll call over what is level 1 and 2 of the building, is leaking. We have pictures of the the building department has leaks along the windows and some of the walls over the records. The main hallway in the 3rd level has leaking. Both roofs would need to be replaced. The cost of that is rather extensive because of the square footage of the building is roughly 17,000 square feet total roof space. Most of it is flat roof, which is more expensive, and then we have the gable roof. So you're looking at probably about $800,000 to $1 million to replace the roofs in the building. Another point is the HVAC systems in the building. There are several units that cool this building. Most of them are not working properly. They haven't been working properly over the last 5 years. The borough has spent $168,000 over the past 4 years trying to maintain these several, I think there's 5 air conditioning units that just do not cool the building at a uniform rate. We have hot spots and cold spots. Whether it's winter or summer, there are hot and cold spots where people have to open their windows in the wintertime to cool it off, and other people are freezing in other portions of the building. So to replace all those mechanical units would be in the neighborhood of $1.2 to $1.5 million for this existing facility. So in summary, there's no easy solution to most of the problems associated with the current municipal building. Resolution to many of the problems listed above are very difficult and costly. Most issues would require some type of construction, which could quite possibly require temporary location of the operation to a different location during construction. The temporary location of the police department may not be logistically possible. The chief will probably touch on that a little bit. But all the items that I have mentioned here, the estimated cost to repair this facility to make it a workable facility, my estimate would be between $28 to $32 million to make this a single level, all internal access to the parking lot, and fix all these things would be a very costly thing if it could even possibly be done. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Blash. Fortunately, I don't have a PowerPoint, so we can carry on. Welcome, Mayor, Council, Manager, colleagues, and most importantly, residents. I am Michael Sorrentino, Chief of Police. I've been an employee since 1996, and I've worked out of this building for over 28 years. I am not an engineer. I am not an architect. You're going to get the cop version from me tonight. The police department was built in the mid-1970s, our section to the north. We had 50 officers at that time. Currently, we have 63 with 6 special class officers, 8 dispatchers, 7 full-time civilian staff. We've increased our staff by 25% of sworn members over the years. Our office space, storage space, which is where we keep our files and evidence, are full, as are the men's and women's locker room where our employees get changed and come to work every day. This 50-year-old building poses many challenges. Constant HVAC issues, and as you can see on the photos on the wall, I'm glad I didn't put them in a PowerPoint version. I put them up on the wall for you to look at, looking left and right. Far left, starting there, there's flooding areas from plumbing leaks to our dispatch area where officers were mopping the floors trying to mitigate. Plumbing leaks, every time it rains, not working, okay. Every time it rains, the ceiling leaks, and about 18 months ago, a massive sewage leak, as you can see those photos on the far right, which required the evacuation of the building. We've made cosmetic improvements over the years, but the mechanicals, as well as the layout and design, remain an issue. The prisoner garage, our booking room, our cell block, this courtroom, and that holding cell, nothing connects. So basically what we have to do is we have to physically walk prisoners through hallways, past civilians. It is a liability, and it also creates a Department of Corrections annual waiver of compliance that we have to apply for each year. The town hall, as Mr. Blash spoke, has multiple layout and design issues. There are multiple levels, aging ADA equipment that require constant maintenance and repair, and this elevator here sometimes requires a rescue. Most importantly, the town hall portion lacks basic workplace security features. I believe this presentation has a twofold purpose tonight: justify the need for a new facility and preview the locations. Previous testimony, photos justify the need to give township employees a proper and safe work environment. It also gives the residents an efficient new building to eliminate costly and constant repairs. As far as location, that will be discussed next with our presenters, but I'll turn your attention to that older poster on the right. That pink square on the far right is this building in the 1960s. As you can see, everything east of Highway 35 is somewhat developed. Everything west of Highway 35 is wooded. I'll close with a historical perspective from several decades ago when the 32-acre Stop and Shop project faced controversy. It's now the location of the newly constructed Ocean Commons. When that project was stopped, there was discussion using that property for a new municipal complex. Unfortunately, that did not come to fruition. And most recently, yet again, politics were placed above public safety. Just as Oakhurst and Wanamassa fire companies have centrally located firehouses in each of their districts, that's our goal for the new police department. We have a large and busy town. The officers focus their daily activities on working in the 4 quadrants of town, and that is delineated by Highway 35 and Deal Road. Although our first ideal location was reluctantly removed from consideration, the project must still move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. I think this microphone might work, though. Let me just check. It does. So, Mr. Brown, would you like me to proceed, or do we want to take a second to see if the laptop's going to come back up? I do have the PowerPoint presentation I was going to use as a tool, but I can proceed without it if you like. Sure thing. So, good evening, everyone. My name is James Orris. I'm a licensed professional engineer, professional planner, certified municipal engineer with the firm of Remington Vernick Engineers. In October of 2024, we were authorized to review several locations for the feasibility of a new municipal complex. So we undertook that as a feasibility study, and we were looking at 6 specific sites. And as a part of the process, evaluating these 6 particular sites, we were looking to replace the current municipal complex, look to the future, potentially for maybe some consolidation of some additional current departments into the municipal complex based on operations. And we were also evaluating the properties based on their suitability for development. Some of the parameters that we looked at when we evaluated these sites included the size of the parcel, looking for a range of 3 to 5 acres as a minimum. Also looking at factors such as accessibility, convenience, location in relations to other community services, traffic impacts, wetlands, soils, and other factors. And they're all detailed in our report that we prepared with regards to these 6 locations. So as a part of the study, the sites that were reviewed, I've numbered them, and I'll go through each site now as to which sites we evaluated, and then I'd like to talk a little bit about each of the sites as what their pros and cons are on a higher level. More detail is available in the report, and I believe the report is available online if you wanted to delve into that. So the first site that we looked at was the existing municipal complex, 399 Monmouth Road. Obviously, you're very familiar with this location. The school board property, which is 163 Monmouth Road. That was an option that we looked at where the town and the school could enter into some shared property access that could work with both entities. In addition, we looked at which the property is owned by the school board, so I just wanted to make sure that was clear. Then we looked at a township-owned property northbound Route 35, which is actually on the southeast intersection of Deal Road and Route 35, and extends from Deal Road all the way down to Brookside Avenue. The 4th site was, we labeled it the Asbury Avenue site, which it's on Asbury Avenue, and it's located about 150 feet east of Sharon Drive. That's also a township-owned property. The 5th site that we looked at is Orchard Plaza, which is on Route 35 South. I think most of you may be familiar with it. It's 1610 Route 35 South. And then the municipal pool property, which is on Louise Welch Parkway in the general vicinity of 615 West Park Avenue. So those were the 6 sites that we evaluated on all the parameters that I have previously indicated. Looking at where these sites are all located, and I apologize, I don't have the map that I wanted to be sharing on the screen right now. But generally speaking, when we're talking about location and convenience, the 2 sites that are most centrally located that we studied were the Orchard Park Plaza property and the Route 35 property. They're generally most centrally located to the municipality as it sits today. The other property that we looked at that are somewhat centrally located, but they're further to the east, would be this municipal complex and then the school board property. The Asbury Avenue property is on the southwest side of town, and probably the furthest away, and then the pool property is the furthest away from the center of town as far as being on the north side of town. So the first site that we evaluated, the site one, the municipal complex, some of the things that we identified is that it does have sufficient size, but there's not extra room on this particular property. Access, as you heard from Mr. Blash, it's somewhat constrained because of the the traffic that we're seeing here. It does have good access. I'm not saying that it doesn't function now, but as you heard, under peak hours, it doesn't. The level of service is F in certain locations. One of the positives, there's no acquisition needed, so it's property that you already own. But some of the cons of developing here are impacts to your neighbors. There's no room for buffers if you wanted to have more buffering between your neighbors, and it's very poor in terms of constructability. And by that I mean you just don't have enough room here to continue your day-to-day operations and build another municipal complex. So you're constrained by that because you need to continue all your day-to-day business. To try and build a new municipal complex in the same location would present a lot of challenges, many challenges. So that was our summary or high-level overview for your existing municipal complex. And obviously you've heard from the chief and you've heard from Mr. Blash with regards to the facilities themselves. Site 2 is the school board property. We did identify that as having sufficient area, in terms of the size. The access is adequate. It's centrally located, but it is somewhat shifted to the east in terms of the town. Acquisition would be needed, or some sort of agreement would need to be struck with the school board because it's not township-owned property. Buffering can be a concern, just because there are residents to the south that would need to be taken into account. I believe that, to the east. And as far as constructability, we felt as though that it had a average constructability. Site 3, which is the Route 35 North property, it's an odd-shaped property. It's long and narrow in depth, so it's also constrained by wetlands. Much of the property is consumed by wetlands, and access to the site is very constrained because of the configuration of Route 35 in that area. There would be impacts to the neighbors to the east because there is a neighboring residential property directly to the east. And then from a constructability standpoint, there would be no impediment provided there was enough property to adequately develop that property. And again, it is one of the more centrally located properties. Site 4 was the Asbury Avenue property. This also is an odd-shaped property in as much as it is kind of a leftover from development that occurred around it. If you look at the development that surrounds it to the north, it literally borders much of the residential properties that are just to the north of it. It does have, it's an odd-shaped size. Access is adequate, but it is not centrally located, as I previously indicated. The property is located on the southwest side of town, so it would be less convenient than some of the more centrally located properties. And there would be impacts to neighbors to have the municipal complex with the police department and possibly some additional departments in that area. Constructability was generally okay. The 5th site was the Orchard Plaza property. The property has more than sufficient area to build. It has good access along Route 35, currently having access points that could be modified in the future with DOT permits. It is one of the more centrally located sites. Acquisition is needed, so that would need to be worked out in terms of the township acquiring the property. There is sufficient room for buffers. There's actually a stream corridor that runs around I guess that would be the west side of the property that creates a wooded buffer to the, I believe it's apartments or townhouses just to the west of that. And to the north and south of it, there's, well, to the south is the Pep Boys or the AutoZone, and to the, it's generally in a commercial area. So there would be little impacts to the residential neighbors. It has very good constructability, and the reason why I say that is twofold. Much of the property has already been developed, so when you look at property and you take a property that's already been developed and you look to repurpose it from a stormwater management standpoint, you're not taking down trees, you're not introducing new impervious coverage, or at least it's not all new impervious coverage. The site is predominantly already developed. Thank you. So thank you very much, I appreciate that. And I'm gonna try not to mess it up. 1 second. Oh, now it's saying deactivate, generate a new password,
X out.
keep current. Should I press the keep
Yeah,
current?
I guess keep current. I've never seen that before.
I'll keep it current. Alright, so,
Actually, you can touch the, launch your presentation.
Yeah.
Here.
so,
Next to it.
To the right.
you want me to hit this one?
One more.
Start slide from current, sure, I can do that. Alright, I like it.
Nobody said we were technology experts.
OEM to the rescue.
Yeah, to be fair, I was gonna come with a really long cord and try and stick it in the projector, but I'm not sure that was the right answer either. So I just wanted to kind of focus in on this particular map, just so you can see what I was talking about with the convenience and the central location of the two sites that I mentioned, Orchard Plaza, and the Route 35. I'm fine. They're generally in the center of the map that you see there. With regards to Orchard Plaza, as I was saying, in terms of constructability, because it's already been predominantly developed, there's less environmental impacts. Stormwater management is more easily brought into compliance with the new state stormwater management requirements. And again, you're not impacting acres of wooded property, right? So it's certainly more feasible and more constructible from that perspective. And then the last property that we looked at, I don't know, Greg, if I'm gonna be able to change. Hold it. I think if I just tap it, it'll go.
The arrow too.
No, just by tapping it, it's going forward. So this was the Orchard Plaza property. And again, I apologize for our technical difficulties. Thank you for bearing with us. And then the last property, which is Site 6, which is the municipal pool property. It's generally small in size. It's kind of shoehorned in next to the pool property and other open space property. Access is marginally acceptable. It's adequate, but it still would be somewhat constrained because of the way that it's aligned and its location to the main road. It is township owned, so there would be no acquisition. Buffering would be somewhat difficult based on the activities and the uses that are next to it. Impacts to the senior center operation would occur. And as far as constructability, we felt that it would be something that could be constructed, but it is a very small site, so you would be really limiting yourself from that perspective.
What about the park right next to it?
So
There'll be time for that at the end.
yeah, I think that'll get covered by one of the other professionals, but that was not one of the sites that we looked at, if I'm thinking about which one you're talking about. So based on our evaluation, reviewing the 6 sites, what we did conclude was that the school board property had a very high development potential, as did the Orchard Plaza property. The other sites, which would be 1, 3, 4, and 6, they had limited development potential with regards to some of the things that you'd have to overcome to develop on those sites that I've already talked about. I did come up with a rating system, a very subjective rating system that's in my report. And what I did was I just looked at all the sites, These are the parameters, these are all the parameters that we use to evaluate, and we assigned a rating to just try and, since there was so much information, we wanted to find a way so that you could look at this report, which is, you know, a couple of hundred pages long, and kind of digest what we've tried to put in terms of the investigation. So we took all 6 sites, we came up with a rating system of 1 to 10. We identified that, and as you can see, I don't know if you can see it up there, but the school board property actually had a very high rating, and then the Orchard Plaza property also had a very high rating, and that's why we're saying both of those 2 properties have the highest development potential. So, with that, if anyone has any questions, we're gonna hold questions to the end. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I am done.
Bear with me for 1 second.
Good to go?
All right. Good evening. Thank you for having me here tonight. It's my pleasure to be in front of you guys. And my name is Antonio Scalise from Parallel Architectural Group. I'm a local firm in the area. We were tasked by mayor and council to review the existing building that we're in now and kind of make an assessment of what they have, what works, what doesn't work, and then kind of determine what kind of building could be proposed. So when we reviewed, so we basically went through every area in the building. We also interviewed key employees and key departments, and we just found that all departments are operating at full capacity. There's insufficient storage space with no room for future expansion. I think that was the big thing in all departments. Current adjacencies, and I think this is the one that's most critical, and I think the chief kind of brought this up. Current adjacencies are inefficient and they're also unsafe. And officers must walk detainees through other non-secure rooms to reach an interview room, for example. Additionally, and again, there's lack of adequate secure measures. So I think I want to really hit that home, is that this building doesn't allow the officers to do their job properly. They're doing great with what they have, of course, but also the Department of Correction, which kind of reviews a building like this, there's things here that are grandfathered in that wouldn't be allowed in any other situation. So I want to be clear about that. I think that was the thing that drove home for us. There's an evidence vault that unfortunately is too small to accommodate all the evidence, and lack of ventilation, right? So little things like that. We talked about HVAC systems. The ADA system, so accessibility is kind of lacking, right? There's so many different levels here. It's very hard to navigate. You kind of don't know, where do I walk in the building? Obviously, if you're used to coming in a building like this, you maybe know where to go, but there's evidence of residents or visitors kind of walking around into the building and getting into places they shouldn't be. And I think that also, police officers, for example, are scattered across multiple floors due to the inability to provide necessary adjacencies, right? So the other thing is adjacencies of certain spaces, right? You need the sally port to work a certain way that then you bring a detainee into the building and so forth. The courtroom, which we are in right now, is being used for planning and zoning board meetings, but there's no designated meeting rooms around the area. Additionally, the courtroom lacks space for future expansion. The administrative spaces are operating at full capacity, and again, there's insufficient security. Also, just again, I'm repeating, but circulation in other areas like the municipal areas are inefficient and difficult to navigate, making it challenging to orient oneself within the building. The building department service windows, the way they're designed now, kind of create high foot traffic in certain areas and clusters like near the building department. And you know, there's several steps and level changes throughout the departments, which just complicates accessibility. So overall, I would argue the existing building is antiquated, but also they need more space, and that was kind of that's what we received, listening to all the different departments of all their needs. Right? They need 1.5 times the space that they're in, as an example. So for sure we need a larger building, but I think the takeaway to understand is we need a more efficient building, right? Yeah. So good. So having said that, this is a diagram of the building here where we have different levels. We tried to create a more compact building, just so that we minimize the footprint. We're designing a building to maximize natural light. We want to enhance the work environment for employees. We want to boost overall productivity. We're focusing on sustainability where we can, encouraging community interaction. The building will feature 3 distinct wings, as you can see here. So we have a court here, we have municipal wing, and we have a police wing. Ensuring easy access to all areas. We've also included dedicated space for community gatherings, but also we're taking advantage of the building's visibility from whichever site we choose. We also want to create a civic type building, right? Something that has presence. The new building, again, will feature the 3 departments like I discussed. We have multiple levels. This is a building that still needs to be fleshed out. I want to be clear, we didn't design the final building. This is just taking the existing conditions and issues and turning into what we see. And I think for me, again, you walk into kind of one main area in the middle that allows you to go to the court with proper signage. You could go to the municipal, pay your taxes, go to the building department, or you could go to dispatch here for the police. And there's a lot of other things that we design, but I think the overall concept is we have a larger building, obviously, to work with, and I think it'll be a lot more efficient, and of course all the amenities will be modernized, which I think a building like this deserves in 2025. I think that's my presentation. Thank you.
First of all, I just want to thank all the presenters for their time, and want to thank the public for your patience. We will be doing some questions and answers. We're going to do it in a different format because this is not technically a public meeting. But I just want to thank the presenters for telling the story. Also wanted to acknowledge that the governing body, the mayor, the deputy mayor, and all the council members are here present during the whole presentation. So I just want to get that on the record. Thank you for being here. And at this time, let's thank our municipal clerk and our OEM director for their quick technical skills. Thank you. But at this time, we're going to be real personable, and the presentation is over, but we're going to be here. You may welcome to come up and ask us anything you want. We're not going to do it from a seating and shouting. We're just going to be here. We're going to socialize, and we're here to be personable and talk to you and answer all the questions you have. So feel free to come on up and talk to us.